Hi, and welcome to another episode of Copy That. Y'all, listen, I know it's been a while, but your girl's gonna have to go monthly because weekly is a bit of a commitment right now. But here we are, and we're with my friend Tatiana. How are you, Tati?
I am wonderful. How are you, Twills?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, I listen. We're gonna jump right in it. Of course, I'm Twila Amin. I'm hanging with my girl Tati. I'm in Los Angeles. You're where?
Full City, North
Durham,
Carolina.
North Carolina. And I think this is exciting because we know that you're based in North Carolina. Well, I know that you're based in North Carolina, but you're also doing work. And I think this is going to be a great episode for people who are interested in working in the industry, but not necessarily all that interested in being based in Los Angeles. And so we could talk a little about that. But first, I'm sipping my tea today. What are you drinking?
So today I have I have Clarity, which is from the Legacy Wellness wine brand. It's an amazing winemaker based here out of Cary, North Carolina,
Nice.
where and the winemaker makes wines kind of based on overall wellness for your body. So Clarity is for like mental clarity, concentration, which I was like, that's perfect for this.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but other anxiety, digestive issues, like he does all the
Oh,
things.
wow.
So yeah.
Wow, nice. A wine for wellness. That's clarity. If you share the link, I'm gonna make sure it's at the
Yes.
bottom so
Yes.
people will know.
Thank you.
Nice, pretty bottle. Uh, so we're grabbing our drinks virtually today. I just want to say cheers.
Cheers.
And let's get into it, girl. So tell me a little about yourself. Let me help you out.
Yes,
I
please.
know that I met you out here in Los Angeles. We met at church, actually, like probably how I met like 90% of my guests on the show.
Amen.
um, but we met at church. Turns out we're both, I know you're originally from DC, but then wound up in Durham, North Carolina, which is where, of course, I'm from. So like that was like an instant kinship right there. And so tell me a little bit about like what originally brought you out to LA and what you were doing when you were in LA.
Oh wow. So many moons ago. Um, I when I graduated from Hampton University, big up to my Hamptonites, my Hamptonians.
I support
My
black colleges. I'm gonna just shout out
Yes,
Howard. Let's go.
amen. But right at graduation, I had an aunt who already lived in LA. She's been out in LA for years. And she was like, hey, like, I want you to come out to LA and help me out with this project that I'm working on. I was like, oh, awesome. Like, this is going to be my big start into the industry. So I get out here, out to LA, and she picks me up from the airport. So I'm just naive, wide eyed. It's like, so when do we go on set? And she's like, well, first we got to go to Trader Joe's and then I got to get my car washed. I was like, okay, so like tomorrow we get to go on set, right? And she's like, no, I actually have to like write the project. I was like, oh, what? Like, how long is that going to take? So at that point, I'm already moved out there. So, um, just have to like figure out life now because now this project isn't what I thought it was and it's not being made. So just like being wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go, it's like, okay, now Sally Mae is at my door wanting to get her money back. So it's like, okay, what do I do for work? So my aunt had introduced me to some temp agencies and I was like, God, you know what? If I don't find anything by October, I come out in August. If I don't find anything by October, I'm just moving back home and I'm just going to be a pharmacy tech again. Like, it is what it is. I need to pay the bills and I can't stay at my aunt's house forever. Love her. Can't stay forever. But thank God, like I started getting more acclimated with the city. As you said, like started going to the Tuesday night Bible studies and like networking with people. And I got a temp job working with a woman who does the Grammy nominees CDs. So I had done that for 6 months, got an opportunity to go to the Grammys, which was amazing. And that job notification came in probably like maybe a week before October, before I told
Wow.
God what my timeline was to go back.
Wow. Look at God.
Look at him. Won't he do it? So yeah, I was with that woman for 6 months and just kind of learning the ropes of this new town. And then from there, I got another temp job working at what was William Morris Agency then, just to work in their music mailroom. And I did well there, so the temp job became permanent. And I actually ended up working out there for I think 4 or 5 years before I
Wow.
moved back. So yeah, that's
And
the industry
I,
stuff.
yeah, and I want to say, like, I think William Morris, like, if people don't know the history of agencies in this town, like, William Morris is like was one of the big ones. It's now WME Endeavor,
Hmm.
and it's listen, like, working in the mailroom, a lot of like top agents, producers, and people started off working in the mailroom. So I'm sure that that was a lot of great experience for you.
Oh yeah, yeah, and definitely like learning just personality styles was
Mm.
a huge thing for me. Like, and not to say that Hampton or any HBCU is a hindrance at all, but I feel like we do get spoiled because we're in an environment for anywhere from 4 to 6 years, like, and it's like you don't have to explain yourself or your culture. It's
Right.
just like you're just there,
It's a nice
and
safe space. Yeah.
yes, and people want to see you win. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like kind of getting into more like corporate America industry things, like learning that lingo was it was a little bit of a learning curve. It's
Right.
like this is new to me. So it's just
Right.
I think that space it honed a lot of my skills, like interpersonal skills, also just kind of learning how people operate and kind of at the core knowing what people need and want. So
Yeah.
it's just
I
very
think interpersonal skills is a big skill that maybe we don't speak on that takes that is required if you're going to work in this industry. You're going to work with people, especially in a capacity where you're like you're a producer, a creative consultant, a writer. We'll talk about that more later, but I feel like those are key interpersonal skills, dealing one on one with people, able to handle personalities is a big part of what we do.
yeah.
Sometimes
And
it's like babysitting.
yeah. Oh, and not really taking anything personally. Like I still have to learn that to this day. It's like, okay, you're pissed off, but a lot of times it's not pissed off at me. You're pissed
Right.
off because like a deal didn't go through or monies didn't come in or a contract
Right.
didn't sign, and you're just venting.
Right.
But a lot of times it's like people take it very personally and you're like, the industry is not for me. I can't do it. It's like
Yeah.
that's just one aspect of it, and just
Right.
one person too, because I feel like in the industry world, like there there's some crazy people in there. um and like we have agents like verbally, sometimes physically abusive, like throwing things at people. So it's like you hear those in the movies, but like to be in it and be like, oh, that happened.
Did that
Oh
stapler really come across the room?
yeah. Like I shared this story, and it's so funny to me. And I don't know if the agent was joking or not, but he was just known to be like a hothead. And it's one of those times in LA where there's an earthquake and you're at work and it's like chairs are moving. And he yells outside of his office. He's like, Joe, make the earthquake stop. And we're like, okay. So
I hope he was joking.
I'm hoping he was joking, but he was definitely like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was serious because he expected his assistants to do everything. But
Oh
like,
my gosh.
what's weird is like I was in the elevator with him one time by myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tense. It's
Uh
like he's
huh.
gonna go off because I didn't press the button right. And he's like, how are you doing? I was like,
Oh.
okay. He's like, you got plans for the holidays? It's like, no. He's like, "Okay, well, have a great one." I was like, wow.
Wow. Oh my
Oh yeah,
gosh.
fun times
Right.
at the
Right.
agency.
People don't like, yeah, I'm so glad you said like you hear it in the movies, but it does happen in real life. And like hopefully the industry is evolving enough that that's not going to be so as often in the future, but we still have people who are very old and still very holding on to those positions. So they haven't gotten canceled yet, so we're gonna keep on. But to that to that extent, like you kind of have to know how to navigate it, and we can't let those things be a hindrance to get us to where we actually want to go in our dreams.
Yeah.
So then one day you decided to leave me. I mean, you decided to. And I say this, let me tell people like Tatiana is the person, the friend you want in your circle, because in life, she will hold you accountable. If you're like, I'm going to write this script and I'm going to have the first draft out by this date, Tatiana will call you and be like, where's the script? And you're like, wait, you knew, okay, yes, it's coming, but did you have to call me? Like,
Yes. And even years
yes.
later, check in with you.
Check in.
And
Yeah.
so I'm also a fan of your show. So I watched the episode with Terrell.
Listen, he called me yesterday.
He called you out. He's like, so you gonna send me the script or not?
Yeah. And he definitely has followed up and checked in. And you gotta love friends like that. Like you gotta have people like that in your circle because especially you, like we know we get so busy. Like it's easy to get away from your first love. And so like, like one of the things I'll be, transparent on my own show. Like so one of the things I face is I do a lot. Sometimes I do the most. And so like I own like Lactose and this studio. And so, of course, we have like those projects and we want to make sure our business is, bringing in money and doing what it needs to do when we're doing the social media. And I also have a full-time job at a production company, which takes up at least 50 hours of my week every week. So then coming in, it's like, now I got to prep for this podcast or prep for that podcast. But I had an idea about my script. Let me just write it down and I'll get to it eventually. And then eventually becomes 3 years later and you're like, wow, I really have not pushed out this script. So it's also like a matter of trying to figure out your downtime or to make your writing as important as everything else is in your life and just really trying to figure out that balance. And that's where your girl is at now.
I sympathize with you, friends. I'm right there with you. I think as a producer and someone who also writes, it's definitely hard, like, and has a full-time job. Like I'm on the same page as you, girl.
Yeah.
Like finding that time to carve out time for your own projects. Like it's like I love to see people win. Like that is my jam. It's like, oh, like you have an idea, let's talk about the script, let's talk about the characters, and then what's gonna happen. Ooh, and then it's a 4-hour conversation where I'm like excited, but my projects are like, so girl, I'm here too.
Right. What about me? You were excited about me one time.
But I think like throughout, my networking and friends like y'all, let's holding each other accountable to like do the same thing that I do for them. They're like, girl, you said the script. What's happening? So like just having those wins where you can be like, oh yeah, I finished that script. I did something for me this time. Like,
and I know like recently you've had like success in putting that much thought and care into your own projects. You finished, was it Lady Pearl? And that's, been going through some contests and winning, getting attention. So shout out, because when you first sent me a script, I was like, oh my God, she's a good writer.
You're right.
And so now, like, I feel like other people are getting to see that. So that's so exciting. But tell us a little bit about Lady Pearl and what was the process in making yourself sit down and write it and getting it out there.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if I'm the conventional screenwriter. I have not gone to anybody's film school. So that was interesting. But I think the thought behind it is really like me wanting to pay homage to our elders and like being able to tell a story where you don't put a stop on life at a certain age. So it's a story of two childhood friends and there are elders now and they're competing in a senior pageant. So they're reconnecting. They got some old rivals coming in there. So think kind of like Mean Girls meets Girls Trip meets Golden Girls.
I love
So
it.
it's kind of like a homage to my aunts and my mom and who like are now elders. Which I'm like, how? Like, when did this happen? But they're like so full of life. Like when COVID wasn't a thing, they were traveling and they knew more of the new music than I did. And it's just like looking at them, it's just like, wow, like that's
I
goals
love
right
it.
there. Like
Yeah,
I want to do that when I'm 30 and you're doing that. You're in your 60s, 70s, just doing the thing.
I love
So
it.
that's kind of like that project. And it's taken some time. Like the first idea for it probably came actually before I left LA. So probably somewhere like 2012, 2013. Like a friend of mine, we were watching Toddlers and Tiaras. And when that was a show, I was like, these kids are brats. Like, what if we did something with our elders where they were able to like spit wisdom
Yeah,
and like showcase their sassiness? And
I love
so
it.
I mean, it's just, this past year, it's just kind of picked up a little traction. Like I've been able to enter it into a couple festivals. It's been nominated for some awards and won some awards. So it's just cool. It's cool, like being recognized, of course, for your work, but also it's like, yay me for like taking time out
Yeah,
to finish something. Now I
yeah,
have like a whole nother 2 or 3 pages of log lines that I need to write of different projects, but I got one under my belt.
right.
It's so that I did it.
And that's good. Like feeling of being like having something completed
Yeah,
is satisfying. And then I know to like, to get it does a little something to for other people to see it and validate it. So like big kudos to you on
yep.
that and like that idea. That's just such a great idea.
Thanks. Thanks.
So now you're in Durham.
Hmm.
Um, you're like you said, you still have a full-time job, but you're still doing the most. Like you're still working. Like you're working on some amazing projects. I know like you and I on a project together and then like you and like you're working on a doc and you're working on a stage whatever Marjan. Like tell us like how are you able to like maintain or do you feel like well, how are you able to maintain this level of creativity being not in LA, like, and not necessarily in a circle where you're always creative, or is now a bunch known for creativity?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you really have to figure out what works for you. Like I know at my core, like I'm a storyteller, and that's throughout any medium. So I know a lot of people will tell you like, pick one thing, be a master at that. And I don't know if that necessarily works for me. Like I need kind of variety and I need like differences in my days. So just learning that kind of about myself as I'm getting older. And it's like, what? That's okay. And I know when I moved back, because when I was in LA, I did say to myself, I'm never going back to North Carolina. I would never. And here I am. But
I've
to
definitely said that too.
you
So
know
we'll
to
see.
you know what?
No,
You don't know what God has for
that's what I say to you all the time. Cheers.
you. You're right. You're right. But I mean, I can be transparent with the people. So I moved from LA. I was engaged. I got married. That did not work out. Um, but in that situation, in moving back, I had kind of lost myself a little bit. So lost the creative spirit. So really
Mm.
trying to like start from a ground level here was difficult. But it's like if I'm called to do something, like God just kind of places it in your spirit and it's not going to go away. So it's like at that point I had a job and still have a job outside of the industry, 9 to 5, but it's like something is missing. Like you gotta, something's gotta be fulfilled. So, and it's just gonna keep nagging you.
Mm.
So I went to a game night a friend of mine had hosted and just so happened to run into a mutual friend of ours now, Precious. And we had just started talking about filmmaking. I was like, oh, wow, like you're into filmmaking and you're here in this area? Like, we should do something. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like we had went to a festival, a film festival down here, and saw some not so great films. Not not saying anything bad about people, but we were like, wait, we could do this. Like, we could totally do this. So that kind of spiraled into another relationship of like finding other like minded people. And it's like, okay, well, how do we grow this brain trust? So now, like, we have a couple people that, we just go to with ideas. And it's like, hey, you got like 30 minutes to an hour so I can talk through this idea with you.
Mm.
So just kind of building that community and then realizing like you're not alone in this space. Like you just have to seek your people out. You do have
Right.
to put in the extra legwork. I will say living in a space that's not your LA, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, like you got to put in some extra effort if you want to do it. But your people are there for sure. Like you will find your people. I even if it's in, I don't know, Oklahoma, Idaho, North Dakota.
Right.
Like, I'm sure there are people there who want to create and want to do storytelling. So it's just putting the extra effort into doing that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I spoke to a friend who just recently flew out to Charlotte. She's based out here, but she wanted to tell this story about something going on in Charlotte. So she found like a local crew or a crew that was based in Atlanta. They came up, and she was just talking about like how people in that area just wanted to help, like, who had an interest of like, what are you doing, like what's how, like, how can I be in the industry and how does this process work. And she was like, these are the, like, and these people just might not necessarily have the experience, but really just want to know and want to learn. And so like, even in ways in building community that way, like you have to start from somewhere, even if you don't have that, the Hollywood experience or whatever. And there's people in Hollywood, let's be real, who like, or people in LA who do stuff and it might not necessarily be quality either. They just live in LA. So it's like you don't have to like to you don't have to feel like you, in order to get work done, you have to be here. Like you said, you just have to be willing to put in that work to find like-minded people.
Yeah. And people, I do find it here are more, like you said, more willing to help, like with
Yeah.
whatever. They're like, oh, well, I don't know this, but I think my cousin might know, or my
Yeah.
auntie might know, or they have a connection here. And it's like, there's always connecting the dots. And it's like, people kind of approach it more about a curiosity and wanting to help than like, okay, well, what are you doing? You know, you're not supposed to be filming. Where's your permit? It's
Right.
like, oh, cool, you're shooting a film? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Can I be in
Yes, you need extras.
it? Right.
So completely, like we've shot so much stuff without permits. I don't know if I can say that, but
I'm
but
not
just
gonna tell.
people being willing to like open their businesses, open their homes, and just being willing to help
Yeah.
without like, okay, well, you want to rent my house, it's going to be $6,000 a day. So
Right.
it's like, come on in, you're so
Right.
it's all love here, and I love that creative spirit here, and just kind of thinking of how that used to be here. And I'm wearing my Black Wall Street shirt today, but for those that don't know,
Yeah.
Durham was Black Wall Street as well.
Yeah.
So there was one in Tulsa for sure. There's also one in Durham. So like that innovative spirit of like community cooperation and people just wanting to like legitimately see us thrive. Like, and
Yeah.
I see a lot of that coming back within the city, which is awesome. Like, there's a lot of like co-ops and like outside of like the industry space, just like community building and people
Mm-hmm.
just wanting to see each other thrive. So I love that about my city. So I just can't brag about my city enough in that
I love it. I
aspect.
love it. I love it. And I'm gonna let you brag because it's my city too. So I do like I was talking to I have a mentee who also is based out here, who now lives in Dallas. She just completed her first short film. And I was talking to her about the process because she I was just curious as to like was she able to find her creativity? Similar question I asked, like how is it being creative in a different space? And her response was like, for her, she was able to be more. She's able to be more creative outside of LA because she's not having to work the two jobs and then try to keep up with the lifestyle and the networking and all of this. Like she's like, I actually have space that now I can dedicate time to work on this script. Now she shot her project out here because she still has connections and friends out here. And so, like she was able to write it, flew out to direct it. She used, technology to do the rehearsals with the actors and the production meetings and that sort of thing. But
Mhm.
that's also like, I guess, like the benefit of having been in LA and still having a circle, but then like cost of living is a real thing out here. So like going to a place where it might not be so expensive to do your writing and then still able to do your work.
Yeah. And I mean, I had people always ask me, like, do I need to go to LA or New York? Like, I will say this much. The lessons that I learned while living in LA, totally
Mm-hmm.
transferable. Like, and they are so key to who I am now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend if you have the opportunity to live in a LA or a New York or a more like metropolitan city, um, take that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it has to be the end all be all for you, of course, because I am here. But it's like the connections that I made in LA were like invaluable. Like to this day, like I had met Marjorie Canady with I've produced with her and we've been producing partners on a couple projects. Um, it's because of her, like I'm able to diversify now and it's like helping her to develop this show for Broadway. Like so
Yeah.
something that I had never thought of doing, never thought of producing is now like, oh shoot, I've always had like EGOT in the back of
Uh-huh.
my mind, but
Okay now.
how do I get there? Like, mom, like,
Right.
how do I get a Tony?
Right.
I'd say like this is going to be my ticket, but just definitely diversifying my portfolio. So now it's like, oh, podcasts, Broadway, film, TV. It's like
Yeah.
books. It's like I love all of it. So
Right.
it's like, I put myself in a hole, but it's like those connections that I made while I was in LA have allowed me to kind of branch off and kind of do different things. So
Yeah. I'm so interested in this Broadway process. Like, how is that different? I mean, of course, I have a theater background, so I know a little bit about, that process, but like, do you feel like the same skills are transferable? Like, what is that experience because it feels so immersive and just like such a process, and I see you like at all the workshops and all the rehearsals. So yeah, if you could give us a little light on that.
So I will say this. I'm just like just the tip of the iceberg. So she's extended me the opportunity to come on and be associate producer for this show that she's developing. And I am learning so much. So that's why I'm like, you always have to be a lifetime learner. It's like
Mm-hmm.
don't be closed off to it. But it's like the rules and regulations that they have, a lot of them are completely different, but essentially it's the same. So it's like SAG as a union, WGA as a union, And then the theater space has its own union with its own like rules that you have to
Right.
adhere to when doing certain types of projects. So it's just, I feel like as a producer, it's like you knowing kind of like what rules to follow is a big thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it's a different space, but it's still storytelling for me.
Mm,
Um, so like those aspects of it reign true with any medium. So the development is a development. Like
right.
there's always going to be a development phase. There's always going to be a production or like a
Yeah.
presentation phase. It's just, theater, you don't have post.
Right.
It is what
That's
it is.
true.
On stage, what you got.
That's
So
it. That's it.
a friend of mine, no, it wasn't a friend, actually my cousin, she told me this because I had an opportunity to do a live reading of Lady Pearl. And with that is very much like theater. It's like you
Mhm.
got one take. You're not coming back to do this. So after I had done it, she's like, I'm gonna share this quote with you. She's like, if you want perfection, you get film or TV. If you want excellence, you get theater. I was like, oh, I
Mm.
I like that, but
That's good.
I'm feeling a way about the film and TV. But I understand what she's saying because I
Yeah.
mean, you get one take, you can't go back. It's like, oh, let's change this lighting. It's like you were a little
Right.
there. Like, let's do this again. But theater, you gotta be on.
Right. Right.
So I can really appreciate the theater space more because I don't have a theater background, and just kind of seeing that now, it's just like, wow, like you all are amazing. Like I could never,
Yeah.
which is why I
Yeah.
stay in the background.
It's a whole rush, like from the little bit of acting I did way back in the day. It is like one of those things, like you said, it is like it's so much rehearsal because it requires you to be on point on stage in that moment,
Yeah,
and it's something like a rush to perform and to like connect with your character and connect with the audience, and it's a high. I know like musicians talk about that, or a lot of times like when they perform on stage, but I feel the same way. Like it's one of those feelings that you can never really truly explain how great it is, but
yeah,
it's work, honey.
yeah. I mean, chills every day, all day, from listening to these folks sing and the delivery of their lines. It's like y'all are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, hitting them cues, the lights hit, just everything. It's
Yeah,
yeah. Um, you said something earlier. You were talking about it as it relates to theater and stuff, but development. So the development stage, I think a lot of people don't truly understand what that is, how long it can take, it being a process. Um, and feeling like like sometimes if you're not in the production phase, then you're just kind of like wasting time or holding on to. So I want to kind of hop in and talk about like development phases of projects,
yeah,
um, just because I don't think we've talked about it that much as well. So if you don't know, like, you can write a project, right? You have a project, you share it with someone, and let's just talk about it on an indie level. Like you share your project with someone, and you get notes, and or like somebody might be interested in helping you produce it, and then you
hmm
get notes. Sometimes you feel like after you address the first round of notes, then it's time to produce, right? That's not always the case.
okay,
It's not always the case. So, and I know some people get frustrated in this process of like, why can't we just shoot? And why can't I just sell the script as is? What has been your experience in development, and what's it like, and what's the benefit of being in development with certain projects?
yeah. Development is a necessary evil, but I feel like I've grown to love it though.
Mm,
Um, just the process of it all and making sure you get to the truest form of that story. Because I feel like if you rush the development phase, like the project is going to be crap. Like
Mm.
I know people that have been like, "Oh yeah, I wrote the script in a week, and then we're going to produce it next week," and it's like, slow down. Has anybody looked at the script though? Like, are there any typos? Like, does it make sense? Like,
Right.
why are you on the space in space, and then you're in somebody's kitchen, and then you're outside in the garage? Like, does
It
it
don't make
flow?
sense.
It don't make sense, man. Um, so yeah, like I know another friend of mine who's a dope author, and just kind of speaking in kind of more the narrative space. Um, I talked with her. I remember having a 4-hour conversation with her as she was writing the book.
Mm.
And I mean, I count that as development too, like because it's not done yet. So
Right.
writing is rewriting. And they say like, I mean, you could be rewriting the script till you get on set. Like,
Exactly.
you know what? We thought it worked when we were reading on the page. Now that we're here in the space, this
Right.
doesn't work.
Right.
So it's like the more of that legwork that you could do ahead of time, it's like it's much smoother process in production.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about this. Let's, get all these notes. And like you said, like in in theory, it would be great to write a script and be like, it's all good. I don't need anybody to look at it. It's perfect.
Right.
But having those extra set of eyes, like to look it over, to read it over, be like, well, it makes more sense if she comes in the room and says this than that. It's like, we wouldn't say this. It's like, and also like, to speak to development and having like diversity on your team through development is
Mm-hmm.
key also because I mean, let's be honest, you have like, let's say you have a room full of non-white people trying to tell a black story, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no black folks in there to give to speak to some of those experiences.
Right.
And once it comes on screen, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. We wouldn't do that. Like,
That doesn't translate at all.
at all. So
Right.
it's like having diverse voices in the space. Like I know my brother, my partner, David Hunter Jr., like made for more music, made for more entertainment.
I was like, wait, y'all do music now?
Look, I'm all over the place. That's why I need clear. So made for more entertainment. Shout out to David Daniel. There was a short that he wrote, and it's about police brutality. And I had read it, and I had just kind of floated the idea. It's like, what if the victim was a black woman? So you have these two black men coming to protect this black woman or to pay
Mm.
homage to this black woman's that like to honor this black woman because I think originally it was a father that died and it's like, well, what if it was a mother, like,
Mm.
and we don't
Mm-hmm.
see that enough, like our
Yeah.
brothers coming to have our backs, so it's like,
Right.
huh. And just like that nuanced conversation, like having me in the room is just like, oh,
It
okay,
can
cool,
bring
I
something to it.
never thought of that. So
Yeah.
just kind of thinking about your team and how it's rounded out during the development phase. But I mean, it's essential. There's so many conversations that happen in that space, and you know, things are thought to be like on track for production, and then
Yeah.
something will happen. It's
Yeah.
like somebody will pull out. A producer might have additional notes. Executive might have
Right.
additional notes that takes
Right.
you right back to square one. So I
You're like,
think
ah.
in these spaces you have to like just embrace the process, trust the process. The truest, most authentic story is going to come out through it, and you just have
Yeah.
to trust the process. Ugh, unfortunately. Even though it's like it's painful, it's very
It's
painful.
painful. The process can be painful, but like you said, writing is most of writing is rewriting. And even like, like finding the right attachments to the project if you're trying to get a certain name or you're trying to get money behind it before you can get a deal. If we're going bigger, if you're shopping it around to different production companies and or just trying to get funding in place, those type of things, that all happens in development, and you'll probably get notes at every phase of it
Yeah.
before you actually, you're like, funding's in place, the cast is in place, it is time, or, like, we have a casting director and our director's attached, we're ready to move forward in this project, it is time. And, like, you don't want to paralyze yourself, but you have to be open to that process in order to go through
Yeah.
it.
1,000%. It's like
Yeah.
whenever you think you're done, it's like you better be on your knees praying
Right.
because
Right.
you're probably not.
So one of the things I want to know is, like, when you come into this, like, you said for you didn't have, like, the film school background, which I will always tell people is not necessary. It might give you a little boost, a little confidence as you go into the industry. But what did you do? Like, were you reading? Did you have any books in particular? Something you watched, people you follow? Like, what was your tool, if any, to help you?
Yeah, so I will admit, like, I've bought a bunch of books. It's like, and probably have read through maybe one. Like, but for me, like, I have to be like hands on with stuff. Like, I have to just be, like I was saying earlier, like a student of life, like just
Yeah.
observing people. It's like YouTube University is very high on my list. It's like if I want to figure out something like, something simple, how to create a call sheet, I'm
Yeah.
Googling. Like, where are my
Yeah.
templates? Where are all the things? So definitely like using the free tools that are out there first. I have taken like some screenwriting classes. I just recently took just a producing course with the New York Film Academy because I have been doing things very scrappily and just kind of like learning on the fly. But a
Yeah.
lot of things that I learned in that workshop, it was a 15-week workshop, which is great. I learned a lot, but it was good to know like I knew like half of the
Mm.
stuff already just because
Yeah.
like I had been hands on and doing it. It's like I may not have known that particular word and what that was, but it's like,
Right.
oh yeah, I was doing that already. Cool. I was in the
Yeah.
right track.
Yeah. And I would also imagine, like you said, that workshop being dope in the sense that it gave you words and stuff to what you were doing, but
Mhm.
also, and so, like, kind of validating, like, oh, I am a producer, but at the same time, kind of like giving you a path forward or filling in some gaps for things you weren't aware of, or
Yeah.
like, you don't know what you don't know is one of my big things. And so, like, being able to take a class like that, I'm pretty sure you found, like, I never knew.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
always call Twilla. Call Twilla, call Lori. I need to call Tamari. My LA peeps is like,
Yeah.
okay, is this standard? Like, is this right in what I'm thinking? And
Right.
sometimes yes, sometimes it's no. But
Yeah.
it's good to have like those lifelines of people that you could reach out to. One of my goals for this year was to connect with like 50 strangers. So
Mm.
I'm not walking on the streets and like, hey, come over for tea. Like, shoot, nothing like that. But as an introvert, sometimes it's tough to like network and stuff. So I've been on my LinkedIn, listening to podcasts and like
Mm-hmm.
sending messages out to folks that I think are interesting that I could learn from. And it's been cool. Like people have just been receptive. So I
Oh,
listened to,
really?
yeah, producing podcasts. It's like, hey, like this guy had some really good gems about financing. Like, hey, I just heard you on this podcast. Wondering if you were open to like a 15, 20-minute informational interview, like thanks. And people just write back, sure, I got 15, 20 minutes. Like,
Oh, that's dope.
I think you have to be mindful of people's time when you ask for that. It's like, don't go in there and it's like you have 50, 11 questions. And it's like you expect these people to be on the phone with you for an hour and a half. But if you just tell them, like, hey, like, I just want a small portion of your time. Like, I am working on this, or I aspire to be this. I see that you're in this position. Like, if you could just let me know what your experience
Yeah.
is, like, what are some hurdles in getting to the industry? Like, most folks, especially I think with COVID, have been a little bit more open. I think,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that window is closing more now, but folks have been pretty receptive, I found, just to hop on the phone for 15 minutes or a Zoom or something.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I love that idea. And like you said, being prepared if you're gonna call somebody to get some moments at a time, having your questions ready
Hmm.
and like not taking too much of their time. I think I'm sure people like appreciate that. That's such a dope idea. How many of the 50 have you how far through 50 are you?
I want to say I'm in the high teens now. I might be like at 17
That's
now.
really good.
Yeah.
That's really
So
good.
I gave myself a caveat too. So it's 50 strangers or like connections that I haven't reached out to in a while. So I'm
Okay.
talking like 5+ years. So if it's somebody that, I knew in LA, or maybe I met once while I was in DC, or one of my other like partnerships or something, and I just hadn't talked to them in a while, and I see, we follow people on social media, we think we
Mm-hmm.
know how they're doing, but
Yeah.
actually like reconnecting with folks. So that has been like really good. So I would say that, and also my other goal, just kind of being in my own film school in my head, like my goal last year was to watch 100 films. So this year was 125.
Oh
So it's
my.
films that, are drawn to me that I would normally watch. Like,
Uh-huh.
watched The Little Mermaid recently. I know I'm late, y'all,
Yes.
but
Yeah, you're a
that
little
was,
bit late. I've seen it twice.
oh, make me feel bad.
It was so good though.
It's so good. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, not tangent, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Um, but in that, like, I'm going back to watch what people deem as like classics. So like your When Harry Met Sally. Like, I had never
Mm-hmm.
watched it and probably never would have if I
Right.
hadn't given myself this goal. Like Casablanca. It's
Yeah.
like, so just kind of going back on those things and just kind of doing my own little film school and kind of seeing what themes are there, like who are these actors, like reacclimating myself with names,
Mm-hmm.
because we see people and it's like, that guy from
That is me.
such and such. He was in that movie, remember?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to be able to spit those names out.
That's so
Like,
good. Yeah. I was just gonna ask you, what are you gleaning from going back to watch, like watch this set amount of films, which I think is a great, great idea and a great goal, especially when you get to go back and watch some of these classics. And like you said, like naming people, actors, I'd be like, that white girl from that thing where they did that thing with the
right.
black boy. You don't, you know.
Yes. And also,
It's,
like, I'm trying to make note too, because it's like, I want to be the dopest producer as possible. So I need to know who these producers are. And we
exactly.
were
Yeah.
saying, like, before we started, a lot of times producers don't get shine. So people don't know who the producers are. It's like, oh yeah, we know Will Smith. It's like, oh yeah, we know Idris. Oh
Right.
yeah, we know Shonda. But we know Shonda because she writes and
Right.
she's
She
amazing.
created that
Um,
brand, her whole world.
but we know, our directors and stuff. But, you look at some of these projects and there might be 5, 6, 8 producers attached to it. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what was this person's contribution to this film? So producing is it's a whole nother world where
Right.
a lot of times you could just write a check and it's like, I'm
Yeah.
some people are like
Exactly.
on set every day, like
Mm-hmm.
being essentially HR and babysitting, making sure everything runs smoothly. Like, who are those people doing
Right.
that on that project? So, you
Yeah.
know,
One
just
of my
kind of,
favorite producers, I will say, is Jason Blum. And when I went to Sundance in 2018, I was able to go to the producers brunch, and he was the
oh,
keynote speaker, and he made a joke like, "Nobody quite knows what we do. My mama doesn't know what I do." Like, but like this is a person who, through Blumhouse, was able to take small budget films and to make big income return on investment in the box office. And I'm not even like a horror, like I don't like scary films, but like I so appreciate like that concept and their budgets and the work that they're able to put out.
mhm,
Or sometimes you'll like look at films that might be like well directed, like Baby Driver is a film that I really appreciate, that's well directed, well written, but even like going back and hearing like the pitch process and how they sent it out to people and, you know, like what it was to get these people connected to it. Like that's such a big part of the story. And so I would say like if you're a producer, like you're saying, watching these films, seeing who made it, like why, you know, what is it that attracts you to this film and this project, and then just hearing them talk about it. I love Hollywood Reporter for their like roundtables that they do where they're able to get like directors, producers, actors, writers to talk about different aspects of this. So like that's a great note, Tati. Like I need to go and be like, let me watch some films.
Yeah. And I mean, some folks can't make it out to all these top-notch festivals. But they do have a lot of things streaming like on YouTube. So I've been like kind of looking at a lot of the Produced By conference materials
with
where
PGA.
And that has been awesome, just kind of hearing their feedback and their process. And it's like, okay, well, you have a couple more zeros attached to your project, but you're dealing with the same things that I'm dealing with. And, you know, producing. So it's just cool kind of seeing how some of the things are very much the same.
Yeah. That's so dope. It's so dope. Well, I feel like we're probably about to like wind this conversation up, but I feel like there's also going to be a future conversation because I've enjoyed this so much and you always dropping gems. So yeah, I was like, we're definitely going to do this again. I enjoyed it. But one of the things that we do on this show is our takeaways. So our lovely producer, who's going to get credit, Naya, has been taking notes and has of this conversation and just helped us come up with some key takeaways. Key takeaway number 1: interpersonal skills are vital in the entertainment industry. It's a transferable skill.
It is.
Number 2, keep setting aside time for your own projects. It will be so worth it to see your vision come to life. Period. Yes. Take time for, you know, if you're a writer, if whatever you have, a director, you have that vision, just, you know, make sure you make time weekly for your project. And I'm talking to myself.
Yes.
Number 3, you can gain valuable experience living in LA, but you don't have to live here to pursue your dreams in the industry. You know, that's facts, except for Tatiana. I'm biased. I want her to come back, y'all. I miss my friend.
I'll come visit.
Okay. Number 4, which is very imperative, be a lifetime learner. I don't think ever in this industry is there a time that you'll just not be able to learn. Like, I feel like if you're not learning, you're not growing. You know, there's always new skills to learn. There's always like somebody who has done it ahead of you or who might be doing it a different way or has like a unique perspective. You can learn from people. And listen, there's a new social media every hour, every time, you know, like you got to keep evolving and keep growing your skills.
And keep up.
Keep up. I am on Threads, Twilla and Mean, but I don't know what I'm doing there. Number 5, the development phase of any project can be tedious, but it's so important. Embrace the process. And I would say embrace the process and don't rush it. Yeah. Our bonus takeaway: drink wine. It's good for your health.
Amen. Yes.
But you got to have the clarity going on. Yes, link in the bio. Tatiana, I've appreciated you so much on this. Just like the insight, the conversation, the accountability as always. It's just been great. Do you have, can you tell us like anything you're working on special, where can we find your work, and where can we find you online?
Yeah, sure. So online, I'm mainly on Instagram and LinkedIn, but it's just Tatiana M. Johnson. You can find me. I'm out there. But projects that I'm working on, Post in Black is in season 4. We're in a little bit of a summer break right now, but definitely go back and watch all the episodes. We highlight Black professionals working in post production, and they are amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
we start back, I believe it's August or September with new
Awesome.
episodes, but there's tons of episodes. Go catch the episodes. Um, I'm looking to shoot a short this fall, so I'm really excited. Rounding up some of the creatives here in the area to do that. So super excited about that. Tap in the musical. You can follow that on Instagram, that journey. Marjwan is always posting fun things behind the scenes. So they're in development, creating Act Two. So super excited about that, watching that process, and just living life too. Like,
Living life. I don't.
yeah,
Where do you find life out of all those things you just named? And you're like, and I'm living life.
you gotta also finding time for your projects and finding time for yourself. Like, I'm going to a winery hopefully on Sunday just to kind of woosah,
Nice.
relax, smell the roses.
Yeah.
But you got to find that time to engage with your friends outside of the industry, folks. Like, there are regular people in the world. But
And
yeah,
we forget that sometimes. It's like all things industry, we're just like here with it. And then sometimes you just gotta
yeah,
like chill and
yeah.
have fun.
Sometimes you need just a fresh breath.
Yeah, absolutely. Tatiana, thank you so much again.
Thank
Make
you,
sure you
Will.
follow Tatiana. And I'm your host, Twilla Amin. We'll be doing this again in a month. Y'all can hold me to that because weekly, listen, baby. But we will be around. Make sure you follow at Lactose ENT. Follow me at Twilla Amin. And we'll be around on YouTube and every place where you stream podcasts. Until next time.